Good morning, Sunday morning, Yid Aleph Nissen, Tufshin Pai Vov, on Edge, March 29th, 2026. My name is Gershy Schwarcz and I am your host on Edge with the breaking news. We are 1 month into Operation Epic Fury.
Your daily report of the news of the last 24 hours, powered by Yiddish24, provided to you by the On Edge.
I usually don't come on Motzei Shabbos, but today I came on Motzei Shabbos because Friday we skipped. 1 month into Operation Epic Fury, and the United States has pounded Iran with over 11,000 airstrikes. That includes a fresh wave targeting Tehran and the head of its military nuclear program, and other key officials that were killed. Trump says on Iran we have another 3,554 targets left, and they will be done pretty quickly. He also says we have weapons that nobody even knows about, except for a few of us, and we might use it. But the conflict is rapidly expanding across the Middle East. Iranian-backed Houthi forces in Yemen have officially opened a third front. They joined the fight. Their spokesperson, Yahya Sariyah, says that they have officially joined the war to back Iran and help their friends Hezbollah as well. They launched their first ever cruise and ballistic missiles at southern Israel, but thankfully the IDF managed to intercept them over Eilat. At the same time, a direct Iranian missile struck near Yerushalayim. 19 people were wounded in Beit Shemesh, and a local shul was damaged. We will talk about it more later, and one person was killed in Tel Aviv. American forces are also taking some hits. Now, since the war started on Shabbos Zucher, 300 US troops have been wounded in the conflict. So far, 270 of which returned to duty. The rest were obviously very severely injured, so they couldn't make it back. The latest casualties happened at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. An Iranian drone and missile attack injured up to 30 American service members and damaged several other U.S. aircrafts, including an American Air Force E-3 Sentry that was completely destroyed. The E-3 is a massive radar and command plane used to track the skies. The destroyed aircraft is an E-3C model that was just deployed to the base in recent weeks. To sustain the fight, the Pentagon is burning through its long-range missile stockpiles. They are also preparing to deploy up to 17,000 more troops to the region. Let's talk about Montreal Matzah. Now, we are several days before Pesach. It's James Baruch, Wednesday night. We're all going to be sitting by the Seder table, eating Montreal Matzah. That's what I'm going to be eating. So you can still run into your local supermarket or grocery, find yourself Montreal Matzah. The best matzah on the planet, really the best matzah, healthiest matzah. I'm not just saying it, I'm serious. I've tasted it myself. My favorite matzah so far. Okay, so you can find it in the local pop-up shop at 4320 14th Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, or you can go to your local grocery. Go into montrealmatzah.com, type in your zip code, and you'll find the closest store next to you that sells it. President Trump has extended his deadline for Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz by 10 more days. On Friday, he said, the new deadline is Monday, April 6th at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Trump posted on Truth Social, as per Iranian government request, please let this statement serve to represent that I am pausing the period of energy plant destruction by 10 days to Monday, April 6, 2026 at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. He also said that Iran is begging to make a deal, and that talks are going very well. However, that diplomatic deadline may have just been shattered. Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi has just announced that Israel has launched a major wave of strikes deep inside Iranian territory. According to Iran, Israeli forces have hit two of the country's largest steel factories, a power plant, and civilian nuclear sites. The foreign minister claims Israel carried out the attack in direct coordination with the United States, calling it total contradiction of the president's extended deadline for diplomacy. Well, Iran is already vowing to exact heavy prices for the strikes. So far, they probably have done so over Shabbos. Hitting this airplane in the Sultan base is a major blow, I would say. I mean, Trump is not so worried about that, obviously, but hardliners in Tehran are now pushing louder than ever to build a nuclear bomb and pull out of the nuclear non-proliferation treaty. Their parliament hasn't done a session in a while, obviously due to the war, but yeah, and they haven't got many members left anyway. An international agreement that is supposed to stop the countries from developing nuclear weapons. That's what it means, the nuclear proliferation. Meanwhile, the Pentagon is not even waiting around. A decision is expected as early as next week this week obviously, and sending up to 17,000 additional combat troops in the Middle East. Despite this, the Trump administration is making it very clear to allies that it does not plan to launch a ground invasion of Iran in the near future. Meanwhile, a disturbing new detail has emerged on the ground inside Iran. The regime has lowered the minimum age for war-related activities to just 12 years old. Listen to this. Residents inside Tehran are reporting that armed, completely untrained children are now manning checkpoints. These children are also being sent directly to scenes of Israeli and American missile strikes right there where they are, so that the Iranians could say, look, they're killing children. President Trump told Saudi leaders to stop delaying and join the Abraham Accords. It is now time, he said in his words, after boasting about selling them F-35s, those planes, which he does not sell to everyone, he says. The Abraham Accords are the agreements, for those of you who don't know, that created official diplomatic ties between Israel and several Arab nations. Now they have to actually do that, what they are bound by the contract. On Friday, Secretary of State Marco Rubio walked into a G7 foreign ministers meeting in France. He told European allies that the U.S. priorities come first, even as they pushed for diplomacy. Behind closed doors, Secretary Rubio told America's closest friends that the war with Iran is expected to wrap up within the next 2 to 4 weeks. He describes the timeline as weeks, not months, and repeated that the U.S. is not sending on ground troops. But according to reports, not everyone in the room was convinced. Now, might I add to this that today Trump announced that, that he sees NATO as being useless, and he's probably going to impose some sort of deal that those countries that don't pay their 5% or whatever they have to pay, they're going to get less decision making, basically less involved in regional conflicts like these. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth is calling out the press for how they are covering the war in Iran. Hegseth said that reporters are already trying to paint the military campaign as a failure, even though American forces are barely 4 weeks into the conflict. For instance, one of the papers today published that the USS Gerald R. Ford was heading back for a repair because there was a fire. There was a fire, very big fire, and also there's plumbing issues in the toilets and in the rooms. Don't forget, the sailors have to stay there. This is their accommodation. So they had to send it back to, to some sort of area base of theirs in the region to have it fixed and repaired. But in the meantime, the U.S. is sending another USS carrier, a different carrier. The George W. Bush has been sent to the region, and another one has been fully locked and loaded for the conflict. Anyway, the point is that they're covering it as if that the US has suffered severe loss. He compared the media coverage to today to his time in Iraq as an Iraq war veteran that he was in 2007. Back then, Hegseth led a public campaign against politicians in the Senate who declared the Iraq war was lost before the military had even a chance to turn things around. Hegseth told reporters, obviously, that the current campaign against Iran is highly effective and that America is winning. He pointed out that that the military has achieved almost all of its objectives, and like Trump said, he has only 3,000, what did I say the number was? Yeah, whatever, that number, including the elimination of Iran's Navy commander. He also added last week that the Department of War will continue to negotiate with bombs. As we speak, multiple targeted strikes have taken out key enemy operatives. First, a senior commander in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps was eliminated. Brigadier General Amir Muhammadi was killed in a targeted airstrike. He was a top leader in the specific military unit responsible for protecting the capital of Tehran. Meanwhile, the Israeli military has eliminated a Hezbollah operative in the southern Lebanon area who was using television network as a cover. Obviously now everyone's going to say that Israel killed a journalist. A targeted strike killed Ali Hassan Shaib. He worked for the Hezbollah-run Al-Manher television network. Lebanese officials condemned the strike as a war crime, but the IDF says Shaib was actually a terrorist in Hezbollah's elite intelligence unit. According to the military, he spent years using his press credentials to secretly track and expose Israeli troops' locations along the border. Now, let me remind you, just hours after Israel threatened to, quote, escalate and expand its campaign, Iranian state media confirmed its nuclear facilities were hit. The IRNA news agency reported that a heavy water plant and yellow cake production plant was struck. Now, yellow cake is a concentrated form of uranium, while heavy water is used in nuclear reactors. In a massive blow to Tehran, the head of Iran's military nuclear program was also eliminated. His name is Ali Fauladvand was killed in an airstrike in I can't pronounce his name, on Shabbos morning. Iranian state media is now attempting to cover up the loss by calling him a ordinary citizen, obviously. With the Strait of Hormuz effectively choked off, Iran has told South Korean ships that they can pass through after coordinating directly to Tehran, but the danger remains high because a Thai ship that was hit directly in the strait recently, basically burning a fire there. President Trump and Indian Prime Minister Modi had a phone call on Friday to discuss the ongoing war with Iran. Reports say that Elon Musk was also on the discussion. He was joining the discussion, obviously. The war is putting massive pressure on India, which imports more than 85% of its oil from foreign suppliers. To secure its energy supply, India is moving fast to work with Russia, its biggest supplier. India and Russia have just agreed to set up a direct pipeline for Russian liquefied natural gas. At the same time, India's finance minister announced the country is cutting taxes on diesel and petrol. The goal is to protect Indian consumers from the massive price increases hitting the globe right now, which is very nice of them. Meanwhile, here at home, the White House is also taking action on energy costs. President Trump has issued an emergency order authorizing the immediate sale of lower-cost E15 fuel. The president is also calling on Congress to pass legislations that would allow the year-round sale of this blended fuel. The move is designed to help lower prices at the pump for American drivers. Okay, that's good news for us. Israeli naval intelligence is directing strikes on specific targets inside the Strait of region, the Strait of Hormuz. The mission is part of Operation Roaring Lion, and it's aimed at reducing the Iranian threat to global shipping. A new poll found that 51% of Israelis do not trust President Trump to end this war in a way that protects Israel's interests. Meanwhile, heavy ground combat is escalating in Lebanon. 9 Israeli soldiers were injured today and Friday, and 2 of them seriously as forces advanced deeper into southern Lebanon. Oh, no, this happened today. Troops are now pushing towards the Litani River, like I said, facing heavy rocket fire from Hezbollah in that area, obviously. During the advance, Israeli soldiers uncovered a Hezbollah weapons cache hidden inside a school. The military says troops found rocket-propelled grenades, mortars, landmines, and launchers stored inside the actual school building. Renewed Israeli airstrikes in southern Beirut have also prompted fresh warnings from the UN about a growing humanitarian crisis with more than 1 million people now displaced. Well, where's the UN and Iran against America? They're not there, I guess. According to Khan News, Iran is struggling to send money to Hezbollah now, since Israeli militaries have struck and, bombed many of their people and obviously banks and gas stations that we know about that made them money. Israeli military pressure has successfully cut off many of the secret routes used to bring the cash into Lebanon. Because the Iranian money is not arriving, Hezbollah is now asking, they're going around for tzedakah. They're asking the public to pay for their operations. The terror group has started putting physical donation boxes outside the streets across Shiite neighborhoods, asking local residents to drop in their own money to fund the organization and their war efforts. An Iranian missile fell seconds after launch inside of Iran and killed their own people on the spot, the launchers. Last night, a cluster bomb fell in Tel Aviv area. Sadly, 1 person was killed. Baruch Hashem, there are no fatalities in Beit Shemesh after this Shabbos attack. An Iranian missile severely damaged several homes and a local shul. 19 people were injured by falling shrapnel, and over 100 cars were destroyed in the blast. In Ashdod, an Iranian cluster bomb tragically killed a security guard there. Meanwhile, down south, the IDF successfully intercepted a Houthi drone and cruise missile aimed directly at Eilat. The IDF chief of staff has ordered a swift investigation after a video emerged showing an Israeli soldier holding a CNN journalist in chokehold. The incident happened on Thursday in the Yehuda v'Shomron area near a village of Tayasir. The news crew was covering the construction of a new outpost. CNN says its team was physically detained for at least 2 hours. They say the incident resulted in an injured photographer and a damaged camera. According to the network, one soldier told the reporter he was taking revenge for a recent murder, claiming the government was failing to act. The Israeli military has officially condemned the soldiers' actions, and the Foreign Press Association is denouncing the incident as a violent assault. The Pentagon is considering taking military equipment originally set aside for Ukraine and sending it to American forces in the Middle East instead. No final decision has been made yet. If it moves forward, it would only mean Ukraine receives less military support at a time when its forces are still actively fighting Russian troops on the ground. And yes, there are severe strikes going on right now in Russia and Ukraine. We have breaking news out of the United Kingdom. Police reports multiple victims after a man drove his vehicle directly into a crowd of pedestrians on the street, on the pavements. Sidewalks. English American, yeah. The attack happened in the center of Derby City in Derbyshire. The Telegraph newspaper is reporting there are at least 20 victims there. Police have arrested a male suspect and say the area is now secure. Don't know many more details, but this is what I know for now. 15-year-olds in Britain are being targeted by Iranian spies on social media, recruited to carry out attacks on British soil. Iranian intelligence operatives are reaching out to teenagers through Telegram, offering £500, English pounds, to complete tasks for them. They are running multiple channels on the platform, casting a wide net to find young people willing to work for them. British authorities are aware of the recruitment efforts. 18 people were arrested in London on Saturday during an anti-Israel protest. The demonstration was organised by a group called Palestine Action. It took place right outside New Scotland Yard, the main headquarters of the London secret police, I would say. These arrests come just days after the police have completely changed its rules. The police stated that they will resume making arrests against anyone who displays support for the banned terror group Palestine Action. They clarified today that despite a recent court ruling, the terror ban remains strictly in place. French police stopped a bombing attempt at a major American bank in central Paris. Officers arrested a teenager migrant from Senegal right before he could even set off a homemade bomb that he made. The target was the Bank of America headquarters. Law enforcement caught the suspect and secured the explosive device before it could go off. Authorities say they're officially treating this as an attempted terrorist attack, and France has opened a full-on investigation. Looks like the Iranian government is hard at work. The US government shutdown has created total chaos at airports across the country, with security lines stretching all the way down to the street. President Trump just signed an executive order to bypass Congress and finally pay TSA airport security officers. Elon Musk wanted to help, but the White House said due to legal conflicts, they have refused to take his money. Now, those officers have been forced to work without wages for over a month, causing massive spring break travel misery. To help ease the strain at the Atlanta airport, the Atlanta's airport, an entertainer named Tyler Perry stepped in, handing out $250,000 in gift cards and to unpaid TSA workers. In Washington, the partial shutdown is now into its second month. Late Friday, the House of Representatives rejected a compromise from the Senate, completely unraveling a Homeland Security deal. The House bill fully funds the Department of Homeland Security, including ICE and Border Protection. The Senate had passed a different plan that explicitly cut out all funding for ICE. Trump went on Truth Social to blast Senator Chuck Schumer, accusing Democrats of choosing illegal aliens over the American people. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said that Democrats have proven they won't support law enforcement. Democrats said ICE needs guardrails. Shortly after the White House rejected the Senate bill, Senator Bernie Sanders was seen sitting in first class on a flight out of Reagan International Airport. Back here at home, President Trump made an appearance on the White House South Lawn. On Friday, he expressed his anger with Minnesota's leadership, Tim Walz, calling the leadership and the state's attorney general a dirty cop. He also complained about the state's large Somali population, telling the crowd, "We'll take Minnesota back from Somalia." And he says, in his words, his quotes, "Somalia is the worst in the world," end quote. Trump bluntly told the press that any farmer who votes for a Democrat is crazy, and he escalated his rhetoric against climate activists, declaring them environmental terrorists. Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube have just been ordered to pay $3 million to a 19-year-old because their apps are too addictive. A jury in Los Angeles court made the historic decision. They found the tech giant Media, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, Mark Zuckerberg, and YouTube, negligent. The jury decided that the companies acted irresponsibly by designing platforms to create severe tech addiction. Because of this, the company must pay $3 million to one user, a 19-year-old who became deeply addicted to their apps. What a way of making money. The ruling is now bringing heavy attention to new research showing how tech companies could make their platforms safer for teenagers. A tragic news just came in as we speak right now. Sergeant Moshe Yitzchak Katz, a 22-year-old Lubavitcher Chusid from New Haven, Connecticut, was killed in Lebanon on Shabbos Kodesh during ground operations against Hezbollah. Kvira is scheduled to take place tomorrow in Eretz Yisrael. 4 ambulances belong to Northwest London Golden Screen Hatzalah last week were destroyed in an arson terrorist attack, for those of you who remember the story. British government has since then loaned the organisation for replacement ambulances, and Baruch Hashem, millions of dollars in donations have been pouring in from around the world. Jews in Britain say that anti-Semitism has been rising in England, especially since the October 7th attack, and this attack was a result of it. But Metropolitan Police have also arrested several terrorists linked to a group called Ashab al-Yamin, and they're trying to help the community by arresting these kind of individuals. And as well, in London, leaked messages showed activists from the UK's Green Party calling Yidden, quote, an abomination to the planet. These text messages were leaked and came out right before the party's spring conference today. Members are currently voting on an official rule that claims that Zionism is basically racism. The head of the Green Party, Zach Palensky, a self-hating Jew, he's a vegan and other things, is now dealing with rebellion from his own family. Well, of course, his family members say they were so afraid of his party's views that they will be forced to leave the UK if he ever becomes Prime Minister. He, a Jew. The leaked group chats also show party members defending Dr. Rahme Aladwan. She worked for the NHS, the public healthcare system in the UK, and she's a known anti-Semite, Jew hater. Dr. Aladwan Imach Shema was in court yesterday. She's officially charged with trying to get people to support Hamas and as well all the terrorists against the Jews, stirring up a racial hater. New York City has now a new law protecting shuls and Jewish community centers. The city council voted overwhelmingly to pass the buffer zone. The buffer zone bill, which is the law that gives police the authority to create an empty, secure space around religious buildings if protests are happening nearby. Supporters say the buffer zones are necessary to make Jewish residents safely walk into their shuls without being harassed from protesters nearby. The law goes into effect without needing Mayor Mamdani's approval. A bill called the Hope Act was also introduced on Friday in Congress with support from both Republicans and Democrats. The bill would require insurance companies to cover important medical treatments for patients waiting for life-saving option treatments those companies are currently refusing to pay for. The legislation was written entirely by the Tzedek organization, headed by the chairman himself, Reb Moshe Margaretin, who basically was at the Capitol Hill for a press conference alongside lawmakers and doctors supporting this bill. A warning is going out to Jewish people, travelers, heading to Cusco, which is in Peru, for a Pesach. A restaurant there called Shefa Mishloachim has been advertising a Pesach Seder night and presenting itself as kosher. They claim their meat comes from Chabad in Lima, which ran a special shechita. While the restaurant does buy small amounts of meat from Chabad, it also sells meat and dairy altogether. The wine they plan to use for the Abakosis come from a local store. And it's Yain Nesach. The entire Seder will be recorded and filmed as well, which is also another reason why not to go. And it's Chil Yom Tov. Because of this, America's In Yiddish, working through the worldwide Chabad Shlichus network, put out an official letter stating this establishment is not kosher and travelers should not attend their Seder. For the first time in 165 years, a sitting president's signature will appear on U.S. paper currency. Starting in June, President Trump's signature will be printed in all $100 bills. Until now, only Treasury Secretary's signature had ever appeared on the American money. Nicolas Maduro, the former president of Venezuela, is heading to trial in the United States on drug trafficking charges. A judge in New York just refused to throw the case out. Maduro and his wife were arrested in January and, I would say extradited. I'm kidding. Extracted by force from the American government right before the Iranian war, the Operation Epic Fury. And have also held a federal detention. He was held in a federal detention center in Brooklyn ever since. At their court appearance this week, both described the jail as a hellhole. Maduro's legal team asked the judge to dismiss the drug charges entirely, but the judge said no. The court is still deciding if Venezuela's state money can be used to pay for his American defense lawyers. Vladimir Putin is asking Russia's richest businessmen, the oligarchs, to donate money directly to the government budget. They have no money. I guess Putin is running out of money. Putin made the request at a major meeting of Russian business owners. Russia has been spending an enormous amount of money to keep the war going in Ukraine. The defense budget looks like is running low, so Russia's in trouble. On Thursday night, a United Airlines Boeing 737 passenger jet and a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter came very close, dangerously close, in colliding in midair. The pilot of the 737 was forced to make a last-second maneuver to avoid the crash. Well, thankfully, that didn't happen. An Iranian hacking group has successfully broken into the personal email account of Director of the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Now, the group is known as Handala. claims they hacked the FBI Director Kash Patel's email address. They've already posted about 800 megabytes of his data on the internet. That includes his personal resume and embarrassing private photographs of him smoking cigars and holding a bottle of rum. The FBI confirmed the breach on Friday, but they are downplaying the severity of it. They say the hacked account was a personal Gmail address and not a government email. The emails are old, mostly dating from 2010 to 2019. The FBI says there is no threat to national security because the breach involves absolutely zero government information. The cyber attack comes just days after the United States government shut down several websites operated by those exact same hackers. It started late Wednesday night with what looked like a mistake. A mysterious video clip appeared on the official White House social media accounts. Within minutes, it was deleted completely. That deleted video was just the beginning. Over the next 24 hours, the White House unleashed a flood of bizarre, cryptic posts. There were distorted pictures of a president, a black screen with sudden ding, and finally a loading bar with words "something new." The internet exploded with rumors of a cyber attack on the White House account, but just minutes afterwards, on Friday, the White House revealed the truth. The entire mystery was a teaser campaign to announce a brand new official White House digital information system, an app. The Trump administration has launched a direct service for mobile phones. A direct app for mobile phones. The goal is to bypass traditional newspapers and TV networks entirely. The White House says this new app will allow them to send live updates and real-time news straight to the public without any media filters, editing, or bias. And finally, today, President Trump paused for a serious cabinet meeting about the Middle East to share his secret for cutting government waste. But first, let's talk about Protobyte. 347-354-1237. Protobyte is known to be, one of the best in software designing. If you ever want a custom-made software, you call Protobyte at 347-354-1237. Visit proto-byte.com. And also, don't forget Kliger. You need to be a little bit Kliger when it comes to communication. Want your WhatsApp communication all in one service, in one place, 845-335-3343. You can forget about having to do with all those apps that you need to post and do stuff to, sending people messages at work is a hassle because you have so many different applications you pay for, subscriptions, for CRMs, for software, for project management and all that. Kliger is your answer to all this in one place. All this, okay. So go to Kliger.com, K-L-E-E-G-R, for a free demo. YS Capital Group is there for you when you need to borrow some money for investment, and the answer is always yes, 718-831-2168. You have Arrive Express, your most reliable taxi service here in Rockland County, upstate region, Monroe as well, 845-622-1111 or 845-254-1111, Arrive Express, okay? Go to ArriveMonty.com, download the app. It's an amazing app. They do everything there. You can just book a car. It's fantastic. For the first time ever in more than 50 years, NASA is sending astronauts back to the moon. The launch is scheduled for this coming Wednesday on Pesach, Erev Pesach, April 1st. The mission is called Artemis 2, and the crew will be taking off on NASA's giant moon rocket. This is a flyby mission. That means the astronauts will fly all the way around the moon and come right back, but they will not be landing on the moon to put on the actual surface to put a flag there. NASA has already released its official viewing guide so people know exactly how to join and watch the launch live. Now, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this because, yes, we're going to be probably preparing ourselves for the Seder, getting rid of the White House's expensive luxury pens. The president complained that he felt guilty giving away the government's $1,000 pens at bill signings, so he personally called Sharpie to order custom black and gold markers for $5 a piece instead.
By nature, I don't, it's the government. I love the government like I love myself economically. I want to save money. But the bottom line is, they're better pens. It's a business story. So for $5, could be zero, but for $5, I get a much better pen than for $1,000. And I can hand them out. And actually, they become hot as a pistol. So what can I tell you?
Steist. Anyway, Trump proudly told his cabinet, for $5 I get a much better pen and I could hand them out. Anyway, my friends, thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful week and we'll see each other next Monday. Hatzlucha.
Your daily report of the news of the last 24 hours, powered by Yiddish24, provided to you by The Click.